I'm Gus Hamilton. I'm one of the studio managers at BKLYN CLAY, and today I'm just going to walk you through how I set up my at-home studio.
Hi everyone, it's Emily Goldfinger reporting from a Bushwick backyard. I'm one of the studio techs at BKLYN CLAY, and I am going to show you my home setup.
Hi guys, I'm Sarah Allwine. I'm the lead technician at BKLYN CLAY. Today I'm going to show you my at-home clay quarantine setup.
Hi everyone. So this is my temporary studio space.
My name is Kristen Fechtel, and I am one of the studio technicians at BKLYN CLAY. Today I am going to be showing you my makeshift at-home kitchen studio.
Here in my kitchen in Brooklyn, and I wanted to change it into my studio. So like the first couple things that I did to change the space is I brought my favorite plant in here. And then I brought in this really great Matthias Merkel-Hess Narcomi trash can that I use as an incense burner.
I really love using this cutting board as a place to work, no matter where you're working. I have these clamps that are clamping it down so that when I wedge, this doesn't slide and move.
So I keep all my finished work up here on the shelf, along with my source material that I've used, just for easy access if I have to use it again. I have my easel in the corner, my tools, and my little dust buster with my underglazes, and my paintbrushes and tools with my art cart that I keep supplies in. I have my sketchbook, wear boards, everything on hand so I can grab it, and I keep all my work that I'm still working on up on the windowsill with my plants so I can look at it.
You want to protect the surface of wherever you are working. For me, this is a drawing board I had to purchase for a class in college that I don't really use for drawing, so it's the perfect surface to protect my kitchen counter. But you can use newspaper, you can use cardboard, you can use whatever you have.
I have my favorite chair in here, along with my little shoe shine box so I can keep my knees up for optimal painting comfort.
I also have 3 different types of buckets that I'm using for 3 different stages of cleaning. So the smallest container is the most condensed. This is like medium murkiness, and then this is pretty clean. We also don't have a good sink, so it's important to keep things really clean. So if I'm like wedging clay, my hands are really dirty. I'll wipe my hands down and then rinse in a small bucket. Then I'll probably rinse in medium-sized bucket, and then this is more for clear water.
You should try to wear an apron if you can, or just some clothes that you don't mind getting a bit dirty, and you should take them off and clean them as soon as you're done as well. Because I'm outside, I don't need to worry as much about the dust, but if you're going to be inside, then definitely try and make sure that you're working on a hard surface that you can clean easily. If you have any rugs or anything, definitely roll those up.
If you're washing stuff off and that clay goes down the sink, it'll clog your sink. So to avoid that, I've got this pot inside the sink, and I'm using this as a pre-wash. So if I'm working along, I'm scoring, and my, it's time for me to pack up, or I want to keep things clean. I'm just going to take this, and I'm going to wash it off using a sponge or my hand in this pre-wash bucket until I get all the clay off of there. And then if I need to, just to get that thin film off, I can give it a quick rinse.
Another thing I have to keep in mind is the amount of dust in the studio. So I'm also sharing this space with a couple of other painters. We don't really have great ventilation, so I have to make sure that things don't get dusty. So I'm constantly wiping down my surface as I work, which you should do anyway in any studio.
Every time I'm hand building, I'll collect all these big pieces and put them in a little jar with water and make my slip. And all the small dust, I vacuum up with my little dust buster, so I'll vacuum my area a few times a day just to keep it clean. And I will also take a wet sponge, damp sponge, and a damp towel and just wipe down this canvas. And if it gets really dusty, I'll just rinse it in my clay bucket in the sink. And hang it dry, drape it over for the next day.
To deal with that bucket, you'll just let that stuff settle out, maybe a day or so, and you should just be able to pour off the top water, and then any of the sludge that's down in the bottom, you can just scoop it out and toss it in the garbage can.
If you have a really small area you're working in, I would use a plastic bag. You could use a trash bag. Cut it open, lay it down on the floor underneath the table that you're working, so that when you're done, you can just scoop it up, throw it out, or shake it outside, and then start fresh again.
In general, I'm mostly using needle tool, scoring tool, fettling knife, and my ribs. This is all stuff you can find in your kitchen. You can use a knife, fork for scoring, spoon for your ribs, and maybe some burnishing. So you have some options for your at-home stuff.
I've got some bits and pieces that I'm going to use. Obviously we don't have professional kit here, so we're just making do with what we've got. I am going to be using a piece of cardboard box for my wearboard, because I don't have any wearboards. But you could also use like a chopping board with a bit of paper on the top, just something hard so that you can pick up your work. Ooh, a hand building, you can get away with not having loads of stuff.
When hand building, people oftentimes use what are called bump molds, and they are sometimes made out of plaster, but if you don't have a bump mold, you can just use a bowl from your house. This is a bowl from Edible Arrangements that has just been sitting on top of our fridge, and what I did is I covered it in plastic, that way the clay could release once it is shrunk.
I went around in our kitchen and found a bunch of tools. So empty yogurt containers are great for using as water containers. So I found a little rolling pin, a dull knife that you can use as a fettling tool. This is great for texture. It's a little pie thing. This big mixing fork could be good for a rib tool. You could also use a credit card.
My clay, and I also have a little container of water and a brush. I've got some sponges, I have a pencil and also a pin tool. You can just use the pencil as a pin tool if you don't have one at home. And then I have a towel.
I've got a wooden spoon that makes for a really great paddle, a ruler, a fork that I'm using for scoring. I happen to have a needle tool at home, but if you don't have one of those, a sharp pencil works really great. And let's see, I've got a brush here, a chopstick, and then a paring knife that I'm using sort of as a fettling knife.
Mostly, I spend like 90% of my time underglaze painting. So underglaze is great because you can paint it on greenware, leather hard, bone dry. So I really recommend ordering some underglazes from BKLYN Clay. They do deliver. So I have all my colors with me at the moment, and my brushes here. The biggest thing for me is finding containers to mix all my underglazes in. So I've just been collecting these little to-go food containers. These are great. I just label everything with my colors. I like to mix large amounts of colors and then use it for multiple projects because it's really hard to get a color the same after you've mixed it. So I recommend mixing large amounts of color and then keeping it in containers. So I've also just been collecting stuff from my house, like a little travel airport container I found in my bathroom, an old vitamin container. It's now intense pink.
So I also have these little plastic bags. I use a lot of colored clay, so these are just Ziploc bags, and they're really great to store clay if you have small amounts that you're working with.
This is the clay that I'm working with. So this is a bag of 240G. It's a really great white stoneware from Standard. And I've got it inside of another plastic bag inside of another plastic bag, just to try and keep any clay crumbs and things like that inside there, and also just make sure that this clay doesn't dry out. So keep that wrapped up tightly.
So again, these things are really great. I also use the lids for my small palettes. If I'm painting a cup, I usually just have like a small amount of colors I'm using. So I'll keep these in little baggies and then just come back to it later. You can also do this with the plate. Just bag it, wrap it in saran wrap, and just keep these really moist so you can come back to them. But I think just trying not to waste anything because we have limited resources right now. So keeping your underglazes moist is a priority.
And I use this for storing clay. This used to hold clothes for me, and I've transformed it. So this is great if you are working in your bedroom. You have a plastic container. You could work on a project in here, or take it out and then put it back. Put all your tools in here, and then put it back under your bed. That's really easy to manage and keep the space really clean.
I like to keep just one project that I'm working out on my table, and maybe one other, but in general just one, and then everything I'm not working on I keep on my windowsill, or I have a little shelf that I've been putting my finished work on. Just because if it's out in your space, you're just going to bump into it. I've already broken 2 pieces, so just keep your area clean and be careful not to bump into stuff. But if you do, it's okay. So I'm just saying, make little areas for yourself, and it's nice just to keep stuff away so you don't bump into it.
I'm just using some old plastic grocery bags to wrap things up at the end of the day. So when I'm done working and I'm cleaning up in here, I'll wrap this up and I'll either set it on the bookshelf or in the corner of the room or wherever I've got space.
Thanks for joining us in our home studios today. I hope you were able to find some inspiration for your own work at home. If you liked this video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to BKLYN Clay's YouTube channel, and leave a comment of what you are working on down below.
Yeah, I think that's about it.